Today's bad argument of the day is my favorite, least favorite, maybe, one of those. And it's the often misused analogy of guns to cars. I've heard this from both sides in some form or another. The gun control argument typically goes something like,
cars are responsible for about 35,000 deaths a year, the same as guns. And we take steps to license drivers, register vehicles, require insurance, institute safety inspections, and make a variety of safety technologies mandatory on automobiles. Everyone seems to agree that these actions are totally reasonable and don't infringe on anyone's rights. So why shouldn't we do all the same things for firearms?
The typical pro-gun rebuttal to this generally sounds something like, well, cars kill just as many people as guns, and I don't hear you calling for bans on cars or restrictions on certain types of vehicles. I don't think that requires a whole lot of depth in response in terms of illustrating what a bad argument that is. I think where that argument fails is it implies that the people who are arguing for gun control are doing so in bad faith, since they're willing to discount or dismiss the lethality of automotive technology. The only similarities between cars and guns is that they're both useful technologies employed and enjoyed by millions of people for sport, utility, entertainment, and personal empowerment. And they're both accompanied by substantial costs. In the case of this example, the combined deaths of about 70,000 Americans a year. But that's where the similarities, I think, kind of end, because when it comes to those deaths, almost all of the automotive deaths are accidental, and almost all of the firearms deaths are intentional, with 2/3 of them being suicides. The thing is, with cars and guns, they are opposite and inverted problems. Now, the issue comes into play when people try and represent all of the solutions implemented in the automotive space as applicable to the firearm space.
Right, so you're saying there are two different problems, two different solutions.
Right. So the reason that we don't do all of those things with guns is because the problem is inherently different. It's not just a technology, a popular technology that happens to have a human cost attached to it, so therefore all the solutions are the same. Every safety strategy in the automotive space is implemented in order to reduce accidents and increase survivability in the event of an accident. And there are many variables which contribute to accidents. We're talking about vehicle condition, traffic condition, road condition and design, the weather, driver distractedness or alertness, driving speed, driving skill and experience, and so on. And all of the technologies and strategies implemented are to address issues like these. Not a single one of these technologies and strategies has any effect on whether or not someone chooses to deliberately crash their vehicle. And none of them are transferable to the issue of death by firearms. None of these solutions address intent. And addressing intent is crucial to reducing interpersonal violence and suicide.
Right, yep. Get to that root cause. So another thing to consider is we can design roads and intersections to reduce accidents by changing some of the environmental features. So maybe a better analogy between cars and guns is that improving the environments that generate the most violence could be like improving the intersections which generate the most accidents.
There are strategies in terms of road design and traffic analysis that reduce accidents, reduce speeding, reduce pedestrian deaths. And that environmental factor could be something that we look into. Automotive solutions are generated by the investigation of root causes of fatal accidents, and it might be smart to have a useful and robust body of data on violence. I saw a article, actually, just the other day, I think it's in that Discovery magazine, in which it mentioned that they identified some high crime and high violence neighborhoods and turned the vacant lots into parks, and the crime and the violence went down.
So did it just transfer to other neighborhoods, or did it actually go down?
No, it went down. It wasn't as though it was displaced to areas where that was not taking place. It just didn't occur.
That's really interesting.
It's a small snapshot, but we know that violent crime is highly correlated to social factors. Everyone has an intersection in their town where there's always like broken bits of headlight and mirror. Every town has one of those.